Virginia. She gave herself a first name, Alberta, Virginia.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's my brother Henry.
Got it.
So
Wow.
those are the 14 of us.
Uncle Lloyd right here in the center, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Wow.
That picture was made when I was 12 years old. And that picture was made because our dad was terminally ill. And he wanted a picture of all 14 of his children together. So my mother tasked my oldest brother Earl to make the arrangements, and he made the arrangements for us to go to a photo studio in Opelousas. Mac Studio was the place, and Mr. Mac placed us in position to get the prettiest picture in the world. And I think this is.
It came out amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing picture. I mean, and what year was this? In 1942?
1942.
And it says here, the 14 children of Curly, Milburn, and Alma. This picture was made June 1942 at the request of our father, who was gravely ill at the time, and is all his children together, and parental number in identification below indicates the birth and order of the children. So once you all get this, you'll be able to see the ages and everything at the time. This is an amazing picture. In 1942, the quality of this is amazing. That was a blessing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so where you want to take us to now, Uncle Lloyd? You want to go from, so now that we want to go from there, and then we go to.
Let me tell you a little bit about the Tesh community in which we grew up in.
Tesh community, perfect.
Okay, well, the Tesh community was a community of farms. Okay. Farms, plantation-sized farms, and individually small farm-owned farms.
Okay.
Okay, and these farms were owned by both blacks and whites. Okay, we had. We lived on a 700-acre farm that my dad was the manager of, and this was a plantation farm that was owned by Julian Wolf, and, who owned a grocery store also in Washington. But my dad was the overseer of that farm, and I think there were 13 or 14 tenants on that farm who shared crops, okay, for the farming aspects of it. And adjacent to that farm were about a couple 100-acre farms owned by whites. And my dad and mom bought an 87-acre farm, which was adjacent to one of the 200-acre farms.
Wait, your mom and dad bought an 87-acre
farm. Okay,
wow.
On the Tesh community. So the Tesh community farms were owned by both blacks and whites. Okay, my grandfather owned a 60 or 70-acre farm, and he deeded part of it to the society, the Farmers Aid Benevolent Society. But anyway, but he kept part of it. He built a school on part of his property.
Your dad built a school?
No, my granddad,
Edward.
Edward
Gotcha.
built a school for the blacks in the community, because we had no school in the community for the black. So
wow.
He built. He and his brother, his half brother, Felix Mack, okay, collaborated to build a school, okay, for the blacks in the community.
Do you remember the name of it? Do you know the name of it?
The name was the Tesh Elementary School.
Tesh Elementary School. So he built an elementary school for the blacks, because at that time schools were segregated.
Yes.
We didn't have a school for blacks to really go to. So
right.
On the property of the 87 acres, Edward Milburn built a elementary school called Tesh Elementary School.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, as I said, we had both black, about the community was about half and half. Okay. There must have been about, I think about 400 people in population, 400, 450, and half blacks, half whites. And we got along well, like a community of people. Okay, okay. There was some good among all of us, but there were a few people that were assholes, and they were
Yeah.
okay. Were not that good,
Yeah.
and but we had deep respect for each other, and we had lifelong friends among those in the community.
Of other races as well.
Yes, okay, but both races. Matter of fact, the white kid that I grew up with, okay, we'd kick butts, and but we all went home in peace, and we came back the next day, and it's not all over again in friendship. As a matter of fact, when I was there in 2017 for the family reunion, I visited with him. His name is James Tatman.
Wow.
I think there's a
Chapman?
Tatman, 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 James, Jimmy. Anyway, so he and I posed for a picture for the record. Okay, and we've done that through several family reunions, because whenever we had a family reunion, okay, and they heard about it, he would show up, okay? Because he was considered himself part of our family group.
Yeah.
And so we accorded him that courtesy. And I think others could attest to that type of relationship. But anyway, the Tesh community provided for us unity, economic status, because we farmed and sold crops, and paid for our keep, paid for our needs, and gave us the basic foundation of unity, work ethics, and all those other good qualities and values that we cherish. Okay.
And then having a school on the property also provided, a sense of knowledge and education.
Yes, yes. Matter of fact, it was a one teacher school initially, and then when I started the first grade, that's the first time we had two teachers in the school. The school went up through the seventh grade, and my daddy's youngest sister, Ada, was the teacher and principal of that school, and she got help. It said in 1936, I think, when I started my first grade, and my first grade teacher was Mrs. Sims, Julia B. Sims. Okay, so we had two teachers at Tesh Elementary School. And in the end, I think that's when the school finally closed. So it was no longer school. I think it was a two-teacher school. But anyway, Ada was the first teacher, and then joined by Ms. Sims, and I went through the seventh grade, the first through third grade under Ms. Sims, and the fourth through seventh grade under Ms. Ada.
That's interesting. Something that I noticed too is like, hearing it is, so what comes to mind is the different things that our family was part of was farming, education. I heard that you said one of the sisters was with the pastor,
Yes.
so
Yep.
it shows that also, Christianity had a part to play.
Yep.
Also, hearing that, it just kind of lets us know some of the things that we were involved in. Of course, we know we go to, when you think about that, we got, Rodney, who was also into track. So we know that sports was involved in our family as well. And so hearing that, it just kind of starts to bring all things together, so that the younger family members and aunts and aunties and great aunts and great uncles, they can start seeing why some of those passions that they may have, they can realize that the foundation was laid for a lot of our elders with things that they were doing. I think about myself, growing up with my grandfather on the ranch, and growing up with horses and loving animals so much. Hearing that helps me realize why it was so important, why I'm connected to it, because my elders, Edward and Virginia, how they, had a farm and had a land, and why I became a teacher. And I started teaching school, thinking I'm just teaching school just to teach school, but not realizing that my my elders started a school. How amazing is that? So it's really man, it's great information right here.
And in addition to that, even though we were all farmers, agrarian communities, but some of those siblings were entrepreneurs in different ways. For
Mm.
example, your great grandfather was a carpenter, even though he's a farmer. Okay, Roger was just a tremendous carpenter also, and I think this is when he migrated to Texas. Okay, this is what he gave up farming, okay, to become a carpenter. And the story is told about him ripping out a wall because it was a half-inch off
Wow.
his measurement. He was that type of perfectionist.
Wow.
Okay, and he okay, and he, in addition to that, when we were on the farm before he left the farm, in the wintertime, he would cut wood, okay, to sell wood for stoves and fireplaces. Okay. And so this is the type of entrepreneurship that he had in addition to, being on the farm and growing potatoes and cotton and corn. Okay. There was a need for another service. One, wood. So he became a woodcutter. And matter of fact, he bought a car engine, okay, that had a belt on it hooked up to a saw, okay, where he would cut the wood, and he hired other cousins in the community to help cut the wood, to split the wood, and he usually had a market for it before he started to cut, because and I don't know what the intake was or the money was.
Yeah.
I know he would say so and so owe him money, because I think that he sold a lot of it on credit, or for trade or something else.
That right there is amazing. And so when we think about the history of our family, so basically pretty much you said Canada, and then Louisiana. Are there any other locations of where we may have migrated from? Any other that come to mind? That comes to mind. I know Louisiana. I heard you say Canada. With slavery and things of that nature. Some of us were slaves, and some of us also were owners of plantations too, right?
Yes.
So it's like we kind of have both sides, the best of both worlds. We have both sides of history. So were there any other cities or countries that come to mind?
Well, no. See, when in the early years, in the 1800s, okay, because of the intermixing of races, many of my cousins and uncles and whatnot, okay, passed and went north to Illinois or other places, and passed for white. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So, and I remembered, okay, as a teenager, one of them came back, okay, as a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
But just because he wanted to come back to, okay, say hello to people, okay, and he was as white as white could be, okay. But
wow, so he was able to pass for white. Wow.
Now, another little story that I tell. In 1967, I was at one of the military colleges, and I received a picture in my inbox, okay, with a congratulation note upon being promoted. But it wasn't my picture, because even though I was on a promotion list, but it was a picture of a white guy. So I found him down the hall in another classroom, and congratulated him on his promotion. And of course, I had my name tag on and he had his on, and we both shared the same last name.